Welcome to our Corporate Board Member Informational Webcast. I'm TK Kerstetter with Corporate Board Member, and today we're going to look at the topic of embracing social change in the boardroom. And we are on the eve of our Moving the Needle event, and I'm happy to have a guest that has played a major role in making sure that we could have that event. And I'd like to introduce Kathy Hannan, who is the National Managing Partner of Diversity and Corporate Responsibility of KPMG. Welcome, Kathy.
Delighted to be here, TK.
And Kathy, it's no secret that KPMG has been sort of a leader in pushing women's organizations and other diverse organizations. And specifically, you guys have been a sponsor of ION and WCD, a founding sponsor. You got the organizations going. They're going full speed at this point. You're helping with moving the needle, so there's no question about that. Yet, when we look at the results in the boardroom, the last couple of years there really hasn't been any numerical movement as far as building diversity on boards. And do you think that it's somewhat to do with the financial crisis? And do you think as the recession goes past that we're going to have a little boost? Or do we have our work cut out for us?
Well, I think that certainly the economic environment has played into this in the sense that I think companies are relooking at their priorities and what's going to make them successful. But I think that I would say I think we're very optimistic because I think it's such a hot topic today in corporate America. There are so many companies at the board and executive committee levels that are entering into this conversation. So I feel really optimistic about that. And I think also we're very fortunate because there is a lot of resources that are available out there to help companies as they address this issue around diversity in the boardroom in terms of helping them with the overall process as well as then looking for candidates. And as you pointed out, we at KPMG really have been involved in the education process pretty early because we really understand that for us, diversity is a strategic business imperative, and that is what is going to drive a sustainable enterprise. So we actually partnered with a number of organizations, including, as you said, ION and WCD, Catalyst, and corporate board members, why we're here today. And I think we've been very focused on those organizations that really can help really make a difference in this space. So as you mentioned, Women Corporate Directors, a fantastic organization that we're actually a founding member of and sit on their advisory board. And WCD has been around for about 10 years now today. And they have launched 43 chapters around the globe. And we're proud to say that we've been at every single launch of those chapters. And one of the things that WCD has put together just recently that is absolutely fantastic is they put together a global nominating commission to really focus specifically on this issue. And it's comprised of a number of business leaders and board nominating committee chairs. And there's a number of actions that they have undertaken to really make a difference in this space. And I can tell you about a couple of those. And one of them really is working with search firms out there to really help them in identifying candidates for board positions. And they're also asking nominating committees themselves to be much more transparent as to the process of identifying candidates and bringing them to the table, this whole selection process. So we're really very optimistic about what the commission can do and in the future. And I think we have a number of people that are very engaged with that. And one of my partners who you met, Nancy Calderon, is also a big driver of this and in working on this committee. Another thing that the coalition, the commission is doing is really gathering data, which will be very helpful to companies in terms of the various candidates that are out there, their skill sets, and helping share that information to the search firms, to the nominating committees themselves. So really taking a very active role. So I think that's really making things move.
It sounds like a ton.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you look at the diversity pool, though. One of the challenges is, we often see people say, "Hey, I want a sitting CEO or sitting CFO, or I want somebody that has board experience before." Well, that just shrinks that talent pool terrible. It was interesting. I was at the Society for Corporate Secretaries annual conference this last week, and Ralph Whitworth, infamous activist who heads up relational investors, said on the boards that he serves on, what he tries to do when there's sitting CEOs already on the board, he tries to put in a policy where the next invited director will not be a sitting CEO and they can't have had board experience before. And his theory is that he wants to mentor that board has the talent to mentor a new director. And when you think about it, if that was a policy that could be instituted, we would sort of solve this problem, I think, of that. But wouldn't you think that would be a great way to solve the diversity thing?
It's an interesting one, and it's probably something that could have an impact. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the real issue that you're focusing on is how people are viewing the pool. And if you're going to focus on CEOs already sitting on boards, you're going to limit their pool. So I think companies need to be looking much more broader, looking at. If you think of multinational companies that have multi-billion-dollar divisions in and of themselves, and those individuals that are running those divisions are essentially acting as a CEO. So it's looking at that. I also think it's looking at the C-suite in general, taking a harder look at the CFOs, the CIOs, the COOs. So broadening the pool that would broaden the pool. We certainly, have been very focused on this issue, and I think it's helped us through our Women's Advisory Board and Diversity Advisory Board, helping to identify candidates, looking at things a little bit more differently and longer term. And we've actually been able to increase our board representation for women, by example, to 25% this last year, which is fantastic, and it's also helped us to look at that pipeline, and we've been able to, in the last 10 years, increase the number of women in our partnership by 60%, which is pretty tremendous. But again, coming back to your question on the pool, it's really how we look at the pool. I think we need to look much broader and look at the experiences that people have, not just limiting it to the title. So I think that's an area, and there's a number of other, maybe sometimes sensitive areas to look at. Board tenure is certainly one of them, so I think that can have an impact to this.
Well, we hope to see more turnover, that's for sure. And one of the things the crisis has done is that it's prolonged some of the existing terms, that right. of people serving, and that also hurts the chance to dig into the pool. But let me ask you this question: you and I are about to go to an event that we've been fortunate enough to collect about 150 what I would call very qualified candidates that are going to serve. And you have so much experience working with the individual organizations that do this daily, This is a larger shot, with the closing bell and whatever on trying to give a boost to all those organizations. But take a step back and give me an honest opinion. Yes, we're going to be able to put them into a book. Yes, we're going to be able to send those to all the CEOs, chairs, and NomGov chairs. But what do you think the chances are of actually moving the needle from an exercise like we're going to go through tonight and tomorrow?
Well, I'm very optimistic. I really feel that we're on the precipice of some major change in the marketplace here around diversity. And my honest opinion is I think a number of the recipients of this information are going to be grateful. So I'm optimistic that they're going to be reaching out to these candidates. I mean, the candidates are fantastically qualified. That you take a look at of that book. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. So I really feel that this is what's needed. I mean, we need people to be doing what we're doing here, and companies and nominating committees by helping them provide information. So I feel I feel very optimistic that we're going to be making a big difference.
Well, it's fingers crossed. You know, in the end, my perception is that we're in a social change. I mean, if you look what's happening, look at our markets, look at our customers, even look at our staffs, okay? All of that is witness of the social change, and you can see it with our kids. You can see everything that's happening. What hasn't followed in that social change yet has been that change in the C-suite or in the boardroom. So you can't stop social change, okay? So either companies are going to have to embrace the change and take advantage of it, or if enough companies don't embrace that, I fully expect that there's going to be a mandated, you know, quota, or there's going to be some way that it fits in with the change. We've seen it in Europe, and 5 years ago I would have said that it would never happen in the U.S., but I can't say that today. So I guess my question to you is, do companies recognize that they need to embrace this and take advantage of it? Or are we going to find ourselves actually debating the quota issue?
Well, again, I'm going to come back to the fact that I'm very optimistic on this topic, and it stems from not just being inherently optimistic. It's coming from the dialogue that I hear at boards and executive committees, and I think that real leaders in business today know that waiting for the future is not an option. They really need to take some action today. They need to really operationalize diversity. And they have to be, we talk about in our firm about authentic leadership. It's about holding ourselves accountable. And I do think that boards can't say we just want the organization to be diverse. That's not really effective governance, because I referred to it as being ahead of the curve, that boards need to be that much more diverse. And the thing I hear more in terms of discussion about, you raised the term quotas. And sure, everyone sees what's happening, and they're looking at it more in terms of goals. And you and I have had this conversation before, that if we think in terms of, we need to have goals on what if we believe in the business imperative, we understand the benefits from an innovation standpoint, and in this economic environment, we want more of that, right? We see the value there. If we think of it in terms of what do we want this composition to look like, and hold ourselves accountable to thinking about achieving that, and thinking long term. Don't just think today, because we want to make this sustainable, right? You know, and just increase this. You know, there's some fantastic statistics that have been out there by Catalyst in terms of, I'm sure you've seen a lot of them on, you know, return on investment, return on sales, and return on equity for those companies that have more diversity at the board. In this particular case, gender, but I know the Alliance for Board Diversity has a similar type of an analysis. But the one thing that's really intriguing about this analysis is that you find that those companies that have more diversity at the board ultimately and have more diversity in the C-suite, and more successful, sustainable enterprises. So I do think that leaders realize that they can't wait for the future, and we have the benefit of sitting here in this environment where, you know, we get to see everything kind of just in time, and we understand the ramifications, and we're able to be proactive. We can create our own destiny. I think that's what I think this event today here is helping to do, by providing information and making it easier for some folks too, right? So I feel really optimistic. I don't think we're going to get to a quota system. I think the U.S. business markets are real leaders, and they understand that waiting for the future is not an option.
Well, I hope you're right, because that certainly is the way that we want things to evolve. We don't want government to be involved in as little as possible in the free enterprise system.
Exactly right.
Hopefully that will be the case. And Kathy, I salute you. I know how active you have been to make sure, you know, this is just one night. A lot of these organizations are doing this every day. So that's really the most important ground roots, you know, part of this movement, is making sure that there's somebody out there worrying about this more than just once a year. Right. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your great comments. And that will conclude our informational webcast. We hope that you'll join us again where we look at another key topic that will help you be a more effective board. And we'll see you then.